The cherry blossoms are out for all to see. It's a spectacular sight that lifts the spirits of Japanese and travellers lucky enough to be here. It's difficult to imagine a time when Japan was completely isolated from the outside world. But under Sakoku, from the 17th to the 19th centuries, no foreigner could enter, nor any Japanese leave the locked country on the penalty of death. Eventually, Japan opened up and foreigners returned, but many of the old, insular ways continue to this day. Just ask parents trapped in the anguish of failed marriage, locked out from the lives of their children, and with nowhere to turn.
So I thought, my wife can't kidnap my kids, I'll just go to the police. The first 2 or 3 months, I was shattered. The first 6 months, I was numb.
And when I got home, I kind of just fell apart, and my true feelings of, not being able to trust him, of being really angry with him, came out.
Basically, it all came down to, I don't want to be with you, I don't want to be with you, I'm leaving. I didn't even know my daughter was born, no.
Tonight, we reveal how Japan has long condoned one parent snatching children away from the other, not just from within its own jurisdiction, but from around the world. This is the story of how Japan became a haven for parents abducting their own children, and of the paralysing heartbreak and helplessness of those parents left behind. Under Japanese law, there's no such thing as dual custody. The courts almost universally award all legal rights over a child to one parent, meaning the other is frozen out of a child's life. Often the only contact the forgotten parent is allowed is a few photographs every year.
You are a spoiled little boy.
Craig Morrie isn't just a father, he's a 24-hour-a-day carer for his profoundly disabled son, Spencer. After terrible complications during birth, Spencer was left with catastrophic brain damage and severe cerebral palsy.
He can't swallow, he can't move on his own, he obviously can't sit up, he can't close his eyes. And obviously, kids can be very, very resilient, but in Spencer's case, he was essentially born dead.
The Chicago native and reproductive biologist came to Japan 15 years ago to further his research, but he quickly fell for and married a Brazilian-born Japanese woman. While they were both struggling to care for their firstborn son, Craig Morrie's wife discovered she was pregnant with their second child, and it proved too much for her.
So she started to say she wanted a divorce, she wanted to leave. She talked about wanting to, not necessarily commit suicide, but to die.
5 months into her pregnancy, his wife disappeared, leaving Craig Morrie to care for Spencer on his own and shut out of the birth of his second child.
I didn't even know my daughter was born, no. I found out that she was in the hospital, and I went to try to see her with Spencer, and she had called security, and I was denied to see my daughter.
How old was she when you finally got to see her?
6.5 months, in a courtroom, for 15 minutes with her mother wailing in the background. Not the ideal circumstances to meet your daughter. So.
See? You know what? Listen, you've got more hairs than I do.
Craig Morrie has a night job. He's unable to afford specialist care, so he takes his son along to the bar he runs in the town of Okazaki. In between pulling beers, he has to clear Spencer's airways to ensure he doesn't suffocate. Despite his wife abandoning their son, the court awarded her guardianship of their baby daughter, Amelia. And now, still fighting that ruling, Craig Morrie has been placed in an extraordinary dilemma by the court. If he takes his son to the United States, where he can get better care for him, he's been told he'll lose the right to see his daughter.
One more kiss, Tate. I'm sort of put in a situation where I either have to abandon my daughter and leave her with someone who I don't think is a particularly good role model at the moment, or go back and get better care for Spencer, which is just, for lack of a better word, idiotic.
But this isn't just a system layered with rulings many parents regard as idiotic. It's a system in which court rulings are often flouted or ignored by parents who abduct their children. Englishman Alex Kany is leaving Japan after 19 years. He's lost his job, he's broke, and so he can't afford to stay. And that means he's leaving behind everything he cares about, his 2 daughters.
They just loved their daddy. They were real daddy's girls. Every time we got in the car, there'd be a fight who could sit next to daddy in the front.
2 years ago, with his marriage to his Japanese wife falling apart, Alex Kany returned home from work one day to an empty house and an empty bank account.
I thought, something's wrong here. I went to the police. I said to the police, my wife's taken my kids out of the house without my permission. We're not divorced. There's no agreement in place. There's no court order. She's refusing to let me speak to the children. The policeman laughed. They both had a good chuckle about it.
Alex Kany says his marriage broke down after his wife reneged on an agreement to raise their children in England for a while. We tried to get his estranged wife's side of the story.
ご主人様の話の方は向こうでお伺いしたんですけど、今度はですね、双方のですね、お話をちょっとお伺いしたいと思いまして。
But like other Japanese spouses we contacted, she refused to be part of this program. Despite a court order giving Alex Kany monthly access, his wife hasn't allowed him to see his children since she snatched them 2 years ago.
Girls, just look at daddy, please.
So his frustration has turned to desperation. It's a harrowing scene as the father tries every now and then to connect with his daughters as they leave school.
Selena, Kaylee. Hello, I know you can hear me.
His daughters don't want to listen. They run from their father without saying a word.
And they just ignore me. They just ignore me. You know, a child ignoring her own father. You know, so I've been disowned. I'm nothing. I might as well be a ghost.
When we talk about family law in Japan today, it's a slight exaggeration, but there really isn't any. There is no body of law called family law.
At this protest in one of Tokyo's busiest districts, so-called left-behind parents, both Japanese and foreign, have joined forces.
We want to see our children!
They're a very vocal part of an effort to stop Japan remaining a black hole for international and domestic child abduction. The country's been under pressure from foreign governments and parents to sign the Hague Convention on the civil aspects of international child abduction.
Japan, sign the Hague Convention!
The convention sets out the rules for the prompt return of kids abducted across international borders by one of their parents. Every top industrialised country in the world, except Japan, has signed it. Japan says it plans to, but nobody here is holding their breath. And the courts have been very reluctant to break the mould. According to local media reports, there's not been one recorded case of a Japanese judge ordering the repatriation of an abducted child.
Who wants to be the first judge to order a crying child to be taken away from a crying Japanese mother and given back and sent overseas? Nobody. There's nobody in the system, I think, who benefits from being the guy who ordered the crying child to be taken away.
It's not the sort of meeting they're used to inside Japan's parliament complex. These parents have abducted children, and a handful of Japanese MPs have come today to learn more about the Hague Convention. The man they've come to listen to is Colin Jones, a professor of law and Hague specialist from Kyoto's Doshisha University. But his message isn't encouraging. Professor Jones believes Japan could treat the Hague Convention very much like it does the International Treaty on Whaling. In other words, by using loopholes to largely ignore it, and by putting national interest ahead of global cooperation.
You see this attitude up through the leadership levels in some situations. So it wouldn't surprise me if the same thing happened with the Hague Convention.
We've just made a mess and we just have to clean it up.
American mum, Regan Haight, didn't take long to realise she could never rely on the Japanese legal system to get her children back.
How old was I? You were 4 and you were 1.
Her Japanese husband abducted their son and daughter from their home in Utah and took them to Japan, where the police made it very clear to Regan Haight that they regarded this as a family matter.
そうなその形になって、申し訳ないんですけど、この件につきましては、誘拐、刑事事件には当たらないんですよ。
With no help from the US government or Japanese authorities, Regan Haight decided to take matters into her own hands. It was a radical and very risky course of action.
And then I was told that I could do a snatch and grab kind of thing that was could be traumatic and most likely unsuccessful and get myself into trouble.
Regan Haight turned to this man. Former British Military Special Forces operative Steve Johnson is known in the business as a child recovery specialist.
Japan has a reputation around the world as being difficult, some say impossible, to recover children from. I am robust, I'm head on, I'm in the face of anyone I'm going up against, and I don't leave till I get the job done.
It gave me confidence, and what I needed was support from somebody whose main goal was to help me.
Steve Johnson soon joined Regan Haight in Japan, where the case took another dramatic twist. Regan Haight's husband, Shooter, revealed the children had been abducted a second time, this time by their Japanese grandmother, who was effectively holding them for ransom.
At one point, she told me that I had to sign my name off the house, and then I could see the kids, so we did that. She wouldn't let me see the kids after that. We had to pay her $50,000, and then we could see the kids, and I didn't have that money.
Here they come.
After a period of subtle negotiation, Steve Johnson decided to apply the blowtorch at a street-side rendezvous, filmed by other abandoned parents documenting the traumatic consequences of child abduction.
Your mother must understand that things are about to get bad. TV cameras are going to be here, the police are going to be called, and Interpol will take over. The easiest thing for her to do, Suta, is to hand over the children this afternoon. It all goes away, everything disappears. If your mum wants to swipe the kids up and run away, then good luck to her.
With that, the ultimatum was delivered and the deadline set. But the odds were well and truly stacked against Regan Haight. How would her ordeal end?
What we've got here is we've got a home video.
Australian Shane Inaba believes he knows the perils of pushing too hard to right the wrong of child abduction.
It's just a normal day.
As this video indicates, family life seemed pretty happy and contented for the medical trauma specialist. 4 days later, his wife abducted their daughter Ai and brought her here.
This is the family home.
Yep, that's the family home, the home of the Inaba family.
And if you went to the house, there'd be big problems.
There'd be major problems, which I would say police would be involved and a lot of nasty things would happen, yeah.
Shane Inaba has already had a run-in he thinks was all about scaring him off. Not long after being warned by his wife's family to stay away from his daughter, he was attacked inside his own home.
I walked inside, closed the door, walking down towards the living room, and I was attacked by a brick from the bathroom. I had 2 black eyes, fractures, I had a lot.
He has his suspicions about who was responsible, but the police weren't interested.
The brick had skin and hair and blood on it, and they said, to my knowledge, that they told the Australian consulate that the brick wasn't the weapon.
Parental abduction is an effort to eliminate the other parent from the child's life. And the sad cases we see here repeatedly are the child can't talk to their father or sometimes their mother anymore. They're taken away at a young age. They don't get exposed to their foreign parent's native language. They only speak Japanese. The foreign parent doesn't speak Japanese. It's a destruction of one half of the child's identity to do that.
Government MP Masao Ido is a leading skeptic of the Hague Convention and a chief defender of Japan's approach to family law.
欧米の方々たちが連れ去りっていうところが、日本人の人はそれ当たり前に、例えば離婚をするその前後にお子さんとお母さんが例えばそこ実家に帰るというのは当たり前の文化なので。
She has a better understanding of this issue than most, because as her political opponents gleefully advertise on the internet, she snatched her 3 children away from her first husband.
置き手紙で私の場合もそうでしたけども言ったけれどもどこにいるのか分かるし安全なところにいるっていうことで逆にその夫の方もそういう意味ではそれを多くの方々は認めていることだと思うんですよ。はい、なので例えば誘拐だとかなんとかっていう犯罪っていうふうに思ってる人たちは少なくてむしろそれは本当なんとか悪いことっていう意識は多分ないですよね。それがもう本当カスタムというか習慣なので、はい。
はい、これはお父さんとお母さんに渡してください。
It's a day out for happy families at the Osaka Aquarium. But the group handing out these balloons is also dishing out a blunt message. Craig Morrie and other left-behind parents have launched a public education campaign about an issue few Japanese are even aware of.
日本では単独親権のシステムしかないが分かってますか？
This custom of sole custody has torn apart parents and children from all corners of the world. But while local awareness of the issue is limited, Japanese do figure prominently among the victims. Every year, 150,000 divorced Japanese parents join the ranks of the dispossessed.
ただ子供に対する愛情とか会いたいって気持ちは一緒なんですけれども、
Ryoma Takahashi is one such parent, and because of his profile, the recent abduction of his children has sparked media interest. His wife took their sons for a short break, but never returned. And the renowned local artist has now been frozen out of their lives.
真っ白になるっていうか、どう思うも何もどうしていいんだか、もう本当真っ白ですね。要するに、なんか明日を見失っちゃうみたいな、将来見失っちゃったみたいな、もう、どうしていいんだかはっきりわからない。
来た、みんな来た、みんな来た。
要は僕は、子供は彼女に連れ去られた、いわゆる盗まれたわけですよね。その時に連れ去った者勝ちっていう言葉が珍しくないぐらいな国になってしまったですね。で、僕の場合最初の裁判準備期日の時に裁判官から「もう7ヶ月も会ってないのね」子供さんから連絡ありましたか？ないでしょ。もうあなたたちはもうあなたたち息子さんはあなたと会いたくないのねって言われましたね。それで
He's trying desperately to win back his children, but his wife has countered with a claim of domestic violence. The abuse that Takahashi suggested his wife should give up work because of the stress it was causing her.
言葉の暴力と訴えてるって言ってたんですけど、じゃあどこまでが言葉の暴力なのか。僕は仕事を辞めろって言ったのがどうも彼女にはその言葉の暴力だったみたいなんですけれども、非常にそれはそれで DV として受理する警察っていうのはこれはちょっと問題だなと思いました。
Basically anything can be abuse. Verbal abuse is covered, financial abuse. I've seen literature which includes ignoring somebody as a form of abuse.
For Regan Haight, there was a happy ending. After months trying to get her son and daughter back from the clutches of her Japanese husband's family, the efforts of her private child recovery specialist paid off. The children were surrendered.
It was amazing. It was a surprise. I didn't expect him to walk through this door. I was expecting, that this was going to go on for a long period of time, and then the sliding glass door opened and they came through, and it was a relief. It was amazing.
For the man who helped get her children back, it's proof that kids can be saved from Japan's black hole of abduction.
There is only one way to recover children that have been abducted, and that's to get on a plane, to land in country and get on with it, and confront people and upset people, ruffle feathers.
But the happy endings are rare indeed, overwhelmed by the thousands of stories of heartbreak. American Craig Morey will continue to care for his son Spencer and continue to fight to be with his daughter Amelia. And he'll continue in his struggle to change the system in Japan.
Every 3 minutes, a child loses contact with a parent in Japan through divorce. Every 3 minutes. And the government doesn't want to acknowledge that because they don't know how to deal with it and they're not willing to deal with it.
Sometimes it's hard to watch.
Chain Inaba continues to fight for his daughter in the courts, but he knows he may not get to see her for many years.
And she'll know that her father did everything humanly possible to keep the family together and protect her. She'll know that.
They once loved to play music together. But for Englishman Alex Kany, it's sayonara to Japan and the daughters he can't see and who will no longer speak to him. While recently packing up his Tokyo home, he discovered a note left for him by one of his daughters before she was snatched away. He turned it into a song for them called Someday We Can Meet.
I didn't want you to be out of my life, or for me to be out of yours. It wasn't me that did this to you. I've done my best to get you back. I think about you all the time. If you want anything, I'm here. And I'm looking forward to that day. でも寂しいよ笑顔待ってるよ